Hello, everyone. Happy Wednesday. Welcome to Authentic Energy live stream. I'm here every Wednesday at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. 12 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. And let me know where is everyone tuning from. Let me know in a comment. I can see Fabio. Oh my God. Hello, Fabio. Did you just tuning now? Or I saw your comment before I went live already. Thank you for waiting for the live and leaving comments. So if you're just tuning in now, let me know in the comment where you're tuning in from, if you're watching live or replay. Okay, so this is your opportunity for you to ask me questions. You can live interact with me, ask me anything in the comment. But also today, I have a very important topic to share with all of you. This one is about unhealthy eating behaviors that are very common amongst many Herbalife coaches and fitness and health and fitness coaches. These are the behaviors I used to have, and I feel that it's very important to like really confront these behaviors and actually talk about them, because I know that some people may look at these behaviors and think that it's not a big deal, but actually according to a lot of, like, I'll say, eating disorder experts, these behaviors, these unhealthy eating behaviors, are actually predictors of developing eating disorders. I know it sounds a bit scary, but when I was actually going through my phase of struggling with not just my own body image, but struggling with food, and I had a very unhealthy relationship with food in the past, I could actually feel, now looking back, I could really feel like it was really affecting me in like other areas of my life, and especially it was really stressing me out, like, mentally. So I felt like it's very important to address these unhealthy eating behaviors. And these behaviors sometimes are considered as, they're actually termed disorder eating. Right. So I didn't want to use, the words disorder eating, um, because very often, people may get confused with disorder eating. They may mistakenly think this is eating disorder. So I try not to use disorder eating that much unless you are familiar with the term disorder eating. Okay, so disorder eating does not mean eating disorder. So disorder eatings are basically unhealthy eating behaviors, which can actually, I'll say, impact negatively on your relationship with your body, on your body confidence. They can negatively impact on basically how you perceive your self esteem. Okay, so it's important for me to address these unhealthy eating behaviors today. Whether if you're a coach, you're a Herbalife coach, or health and fitness coach, and if you're someone that's a consumer, right, like a nutrition consumer, Herbalife consumer, it's very important to recognize these behaviors. I call them the red flags, because if you have found that you are kind of like having some of these behaviors, it's very important for you to take the 3 steps I'm going to mention in the video in a second. Okay, let's jump straight into this, right? Oh, thank you so much for giving me the thumbs up, right? And also feel free to use the chat box and let me know if you have been there before, or like, I really applaud you for your honesty. If you just tell me now that you are going through some of these, behaviors right now, and I can tell you how you can overcome them. Okay, so I've written down some of the behaviors that I personally have gone through, and while I was writing them, I'm like, actually, I noticed a lot of my clients in the past, they also have, these kind of behaviors, whether if they're like, obvious or they're hidden. And also a lot of the coaches I know in the industry, in the fitness and Herbalife nutrition industry, I've actually seen that some of them actually do have these behaviors. Some are noticeable, some are hidden. Right. And like, the purpose of this video is not to name and shame anyone that has these behaviors, but really to raise the awareness of how actually crucial it is to identify these. Okay, let me put it this way: how crucial it is to identify these behaviors and what we can do about them before they get worse, and like, possibly potentially develop into actually eating disorders. Okay, so some of the common red flags, like I mentioned before, I'm just gonna go through these. That's, these are the things I've had before, and now, I've already overcome them, so I don't feel embarrassed. I don't feel shameful to talk about them. But while I was going through that, right, I actually felt extremely shameful. I felt extremely embarrassed, and I didn't let anyone know. That is why you only hear from me in recent years. You never heard me talking about the mistakes and the situations I went through. Okay. So if you are going through a hard time right now and you suspect that you may have, eating disorder, right? Not disorder eating, but eating disorder and problems, like serious problems with food, please, like contact, your, if there's like a local therapist, some eating disorder expert, right? Reach out to someone in your local area immediately. Okay. So these are some of the behaviors I had. First thing is obsession with weight. Okay. This is a behavior that is not directly to do with like eating, like the action of eating, but it is a behavior that is influenced, that is actually informed by the way I see food. And also it is informed by my belief around food. Okay. So this is like some of you who tuned in and think that this is a video talking about which foods are unhealthy, which foods are healthy. No, that's not what this video is about. Those are food habits, those are like eating habits. But today we're talking about behaviors, right? So behaviors are beyond like, your food choices, they're beyond what food that you eat. They're actually more to do with your belief, your mindset, your mental belief around food, and also how you actually judge yourself and how you take the actions as a result of your belief around food, and also what else, your belief around like the labels that you give to the food, right? So my obsession with weight is actually due to the fact that I start to really label every food. I start to read all the labels and go, okay, this food is bad for me, that food is gonna make me fat, this food is clean, it's low calorie. So I was that strict, right? And this is actually, this also leads me to do my constant weighing, which I talked about a lot in my previous videos. You can go back and check them out, right? And also, it really made me super, super stressed about, my the way my body looks in the Lululemon pants. I would wear, like workout clothes all day long. That was my gear, my uniform for those years when I was working as a fitness coach. So I will always be very conscious of how my body would look and how many calories I will consume that day, and how, if my body was bloated or if something all happened, I would actually be super stressed out. So I want to make sure that I look perfect. I always want to make sure I look perfect because I was teaching classes, right? So I would have to stand in front of a big crowd all the time. And not to mention that I was teaching at a all women's boxing gym, right? And those of you who know me, or you might have met me from the boxing gym, a big shout out to you girls in Hong Kong. And like that makes you super paranoid and stressed out when you're teaching only women, and women, we do tend to judge, okay, whether if we want to or not, we gossip, we judge. So I was very conscious of how I would look in front of the students. And that really, also at the same time I was teaching people how to lose weight, so it made me super conscious of my weight. And that led me to like basically super, super careful with everything I would put into my mouth, and weighing myself all the time, and checking the labels about calories, and the content, the amount of everything that's on the package and on the food. Okay. Which is like, if you're learning about food, if you're learning about you know food choices, it is okay, right? But it's only a problem when you become too obsessive with just checking everything, right? And all the calorie numbers, and always keeping count of the numbers. It actually is mentally unhealthy. Okay, so that's the first one. That's the number one thing. I was obsessed with weight because I was teaching people how to lose weight, right? And that actually just become a habit for me, or like a constant behavior that I have to check my own weight. I'm obsessed with my own weight. And that is not healthy because I project that fear onto my clients, right? That I actually subconsciously made my clients think that, if you're eating this food, you're a bad girl. Okay. If you're doing that, great. Oh, you're doing like 2 classes a day, you're burning so many calories. Good on you. I will praise people on the fact that, they're doing so many things to burn calories. And I may indirectly chime in and go, hey, you may have been naughty because you ate a cake, right? And that is actually not very encouraging. You think about it. You are actually discouraging your clients more. And I mean, that's me. Okay. And I will actually make them feel worse about themselves if they, like had a piece of cake, which they call it a cheat meal. I no longer use the word cheat meals anymore. There's no such a thing as cheat. Okay. So, next few things, I'll just go through them very quickly. And let me know in the comments if you can relate to any of them. I'll always tell myself that I feel fat. I feel fat. I will even say that in front of my clients. And that is actually not very encouraging if you think about it, right? And I know it has become a norm in our culture to, basically talk ourselves down, right? To basically call ourselves, like, oh, what's the word? Self critique as a joke or self critique as a way to be humble. But also, the word fat itself. And those of you who are my body confidence students, you know that I talk about the word fat a lot. Fat itself is not a negative word, and fat is not derogative term as well. Fat is just a word. It is simply a word that describes anything that has fat or big or, like round or however you name it, but there shouldn't be any negative connotation attached to the word fat. Okay, but because of the big influence from diet culture, we are always afraid of the word fat, or we're always afraid of seeing fat or just fat itself, right? So we have developed this big fat phobia. And when we're not happy with our body, when we feel like our bodies are not up to the standard, um, with the pressure from the society, especially as women, right? Like we are expected to look a certain way, then, it's very easy for us to always say, I look fat. I feel fat today. Oh my God, I ate a donut. I feel fat. I better do like, an hour of like hit training to burn off the fat, right? How often have you found yourself say that? Right. So feeling fat, if you constantly have, like if you have frequently comment the fact that I feel fat, I'm fat here and there, it is actually a technically speaking, I know you're like, it has nothing to do with food or eating, but technically it is a red flag, a behavior as a result of disordered eating, right? Because you're no longer looking at food as something that actually is there to nourish your body and fuel your body, right? And you start to see food as an enemy a lot of times, right? So we immediately, if we feel fat, if we feel big, if we feel really negatively about being bigger, then we start to think about or start to blame the food that we eat. And then as a result, sometimes we just don't want to eat altogether because we're so afraid of eating, right? We're so afraid of gaining weight. Okay. So this is the second thing that I used to do. Trust me, I used to do this all the time. And oh my God, this one, hiding food. This one really hits home. Like when I was writing this, I'm like, I don't know if I talked about this enough. I may have shared this here and there, but I just feel like every time when I have to talk about my disordered eating behaviors, my unhealthy eating behaviors from the past, this one really hits me the most. Hiding food, because I would, that's funny because maybe some of you know, maybe most of you don't know that I feel like I used to have this big like addiction. I had this big addiction to junk food, especially like chips, like crispy chips, right? Like packaged crisps. So for the longest time, I'll say, I'm trying to think the year, right? Like I'm really super honest here. Between maybe 2015 or 16 to 2017, like those couple of years, maybe it's 2016 and 17, those 2 years, it was the worst for me. Like the worst, I'll say. I seriously went through disordered eating phase that I was so addicted to chips, but I was so ashamed. I was like super shameful of the fact that I actually lost control around, I did not have control around crisps. If I see them, I will actually want to eat them. But then if I'm around other people, then I'll be like, okay, I can't eat it in front of them because chips are bad. So I can't eat even one of them. If I ate one of them and I caught maybe one of my coaches looking at me, and I don't know, maybe just looking at me, I'll start to get paranoid. Like, oh my God, is he thinking that I'm like, a bad person for eating chips? Right. So I'll get so sensitive if, like I would eat a couple of them because I really was addicted to them. But then at the same time, I'll be like, did anyone see me eating them? And if anyone see me eating them, oh my God, what would they think about me eating chips? Right? I'm supposed to be like perfect. I'm supposed to be eating only salad and fruit at a party. Right? And this is really bad. So in my private time, I would actually go down to 7-Eleven. There was a 7-Eleven just downstairs from where I used to live. I would go to 7-Eleven and buy a packet of chips, and I would like hide it in the bag and go up to my, condo to secretly enjoy it. And like it's so funny. Like I will always hide it, right? Because I was afraid that I might bump into people in my neighborhood, and I don't want anyone in my neighborhood to see that I'm holding a bag of chips, right? So I will hide it. I will hide the fact that I was addicted to chips. And then what happened was after eating it, eating my emotions, because it was really a behavior out of emotional stress. So it was a type of emotional eating as well because I was so stressed. I was also feeling stressed out from feeling ashamed of just being addicted to chips. And, it was a result of me over restricting myself, controlling myself, letting myself not to eat it, holding myself back from eating it, but at the same time, my body couldn't hold it. So at the end of the day, it was a big mess, right? And I would just drown myself in the chips. And after finishing it, I'll feel good, right? But then I start to feel guilty when I saw those packagings, when I saw the food wrappers, right? And then I will try to hide them. Even in my garbage bin, I did not want to see them. I wanted to like push them down to the bottom, or I will like bury them under the banana peels and other rubbish because I just didn't want to see them. The minute I saw them, I'll start to feel so ashamed of myself. I'll start to feel guilty about it. And I'll start to like, forever and nonstop self blame myself. And the whole process will go again and again, right? Some of you may have heard my story. So if you have found yourself, hiding food, hiding the food wrappers, and like feeling kind of out of control around certain food, but you don't want people to see that you're eating it, right? You're secretly eating. Like according to eating disorder experts, that's already borderline eating disorder behavior. We're not talking about, disorder. We're not talking about unhealthy eating behavior anymore. If you're hiding food and eating it secretly, that is technically a borderline a eating disorder behavior, right? And I had that, right? I was always talking to my friends saying that I never had eating disorder before. I didn't have, the obvious ones like bulimia or, anorexia, but hiding food and hiding the wrappers and always, feeling ashamed around food, it is a borderline eating disorder behavior already. Right. And, if you do feel resonating with this one, don't feel bad just yet because we can conquer this together. Okay. And it's important to become aware of it. Right. And before it gets worse. Okay, I know we have a very long list, and those of you who are, still here, bear with me. We have a few more to go through. It is very important to, get clear and also to become aware of these behaviors so we can actually overcome them, and we don't need to let them stay around and to basically dictate how we behave around food and forever feeling stressed and fearful. Right. So two more that I used to feel like super, super that I used to do. Okay. So I always feel like I need to burn off every calorie that I consumed, right? Like, let me know how many of you guys, here feel the same. Whenever you eat something, you're like, okay, this is how many calories. It's like 400 calories. Okay, so what should I do later to burn off? Maybe I need to do 1.5 hour kickboxing to burn off 400 calories. I always felt the need to burn off all the calories that I consumed, right? I was not obsessed. So this is definitely an unhealthy eating behavior, or some call it disorder eating behavior, that you're too obsessed with the calories in your body. You feel the need to burn everything off. But the thing is, now I want everyone to think about it. The foods that you put into your body, they have nutrients, right? So, hopefully you put the good nutrition dense food into your body. So the food is not just calories. foods have nutrients, right? Foods have, good feelings for you. Foods also means celebrations and family, social gatherings, and culture, right? Food is so much more than just calories, right? And if we're only obsessed with food as calories, and if we're obsessed with just the calories that do to our body, then we're not really, enjoying our food, right? So this is another behavior that I used to have, and I'm so glad I don't need to worry about that now. And I actually have mentioned about this before, shame and guilt, just feeling shameful and guilty around certain food, right? Not all food. Maybe for some of us, you feel shameful and guilty around a lot of the other foods that you want to enjoy, but you kind of like don't, you can't let yourself enjoy because you do label them as bad. Right. So, and if you do eat them, you feel shameful and guilty. This is very common, like feeling shameful and guilty around certain foods, but yet you still kind of feel like you don't have the control over them. It's very common. This actually stayed with me for many years, right? And I'm going to tell you guys what happened at the end of 2017 in a second. So these five are, the unhealthy eating behaviors I had while I was a coach, not when I was like working in architecture or anything like that. I actually didn't have that many issues with food. It only, like you guys, might have heard from my stories, I only started to have body image struggles, like really bad body image struggles and, like unhealthy eating behaviors while I was working as a coach, right? And I'm laughing because I think it's quite funny that you would think being a coach, would actually help me become healthier. It did, but also it helped me become too obsessed, and which is not healthy. And it actually helped me become too stressed about food, about weight. Right? So that actually, in a way, is not a good thing. Now, so how do we overcome these, unhealthy eating behaviors, right? So what I have done is I believe these three steps can apply to a lot of you guys, can really help many people. I've basically done three steps, right, for myself in at the end of 2017 and beginning of 2018. So I spent almost about, I'll say half a year to like 9 months, up to a year. It was a big, long process to overcome my, relationship with food and body image struggles, right? Yeah, like I think it's about like a year, up to a year. Your first step is question question your belief system. Okay, let's reflect first. Reflect and question your current belief system. Okay, so by belief system I am referring to your ideas, your thoughts, your mindset, and your ideas around food, right? So you can actually write them, you can journal them down, and journal, in your journal, write in your journal, and ask yourself certain questions like, how do you feel about being fat or becoming fat? How do you feel about that? Okay, you write down your answer. That answer is your current belief. Okay, your belief around body shape, your belief around weight, right? Just reflect on that. Okay, and also you can ask yourself questions like, how have I tried to control my body weight? Okay, how have I done that, right? How do I perceive my body, and how have I tried to control my body weight? And also things like, how do I feel about food? How do I feel about certain food? Right? You can be totally honest with yourself, give yourself some time to reflect on, your current belief around food, around your body, around exercise. And you can also think about how have your beliefs around, food, exercise, and your body basically inform the way you behave, right? How are your behaviors right now as a result of, what you believe about body image, about fitness, or about, what is healthy food, right? So write those down, and that's the first step, right? Just reflect, and you can question them too, right? You can question them like, is this true? Okay, is being fat like, a very shameful thing, right? Is being fat a really bad thing? Is it true? Okay, think about it, reflect on it, right? Okay, this is the first step. And then the second step, this is very important. The second step is for you to acknowledge, just acknowledge your beliefs, your answers to those questions without judgment, without blame. Okay, don't blame and shame yourself. Don't judge yourself for believing it that way, right? You may have realized something in the midst of reflecting in journaling, but don't actually blame yourself immediately. Just acknowledge them. Like I mentioned, as women, especially many of us working as coaches, it's inevitable for us to be surrounded, to get influence and get, big amount waves of information from the industry, from the diet culture, from social media about, the beauty standard, about the body image standards, right? And we get so much, societal pressure about looking a certain way, right? And people in the industry, people in the fitness, weight loss, or health and fitness industry, just a lot of us can't even escape from that, right? And this is something that I want to speak about. I know not many people speak about it. I know one of my coaches in the women's training specialist certificate, actually they talk a lot about this, and kudos to them. Girls gone strong, community. The coaches there speak so much about how, as coaches, as health and fitness professionals, we get influenced, and we develop a lot of unhealthy behaviors which are actually quite detrimental for our clients. They're actually really um they have negative impact on ourselves, but also as a result, they have negative impact on our clients as well, right? And which is one of the reasons why I want to talk about it. But at the same time, don't blame, don't shame, just acknowledge that, okay, this has happened, and just tell yourself this: we are the products of our programming. We have been programmed to believe that this is what healthy looks like. This is what is recognized as beautiful. In the society, a woman is supposed to look this way, then she's beautiful, right? And it's hard for us to just shake off from that all of a sudden. We need to do the proper work and change our practice, change our habits, right? So then we can shake off from that. But just know, acknowledge that we are the product of our programming. We've been programmed this way. Okay. And then after we acknowledge that, then it's time for you to open yourself up to new ways. Okay. So now you're like, okay, I acknowledge that. I know that it's probably not doing me any good in the long run. Right. And, this whole thing has been repeating over and over. And let me know in a comment how many of you have experiencing this vicious cycle, right? With food, with exercise, with like, diet and weight loss obsession, right? And if you don't do anything new, you will always be in this cycle. You'll be like the hamster, right? Always chasing the same goal, but never get it, or you get it, you lose it, and go back to square one again, right? So it's time for you to clear your energy and welcome new things. Open up the door and open yourself up for new ways to approach, how you perceive your body, new ways to find that balance for your body, new ways to feel confident, new ways to feel amazing in your body without, being tied to the conventional way of saying you should do this, you should do that by the diet culture. Okay. And then thirdly, the third step is, oh, sorry, this is not third step. This is the third step. Okay. The third step is to take the next steps. So, what are the next steps? There are quite a few things you can do, right, for your third step to open up the new ways. But okay, well, I'll give you some examples, right? Things like, you may want to try different you might want to try different activities that are outside of your regimented, your rigid routine, right? Whether if it's like eating, doing your daily nutrition or doing your exercise. Try different things, go out of the box. Okay, I know for people that are obsessed with weight control, you're always very kind of like rigid on your own routine, your own like programs and things like that, right? But if those routines are not making you feeling happy, it's really time for you to go out of the box, try something different. And personally speaking, because I went through all of those unhealthy behaviors, and you already heard from me if you tuning earlier how bad some of them were. My next step that I took, my step three, was to actually seek mentorship. I remember it was the end of 2017, December. I was in Singapore. And that weekend, I realized that I felt like I hit rock bottom that weekend. That I was looking at, I remember I was staying at this Airbnb, and I had this big rubbish bucket of like wraps, like chips wrappings, not just one, but multiple. And I was looking at it and I'm like, Jean, what the fuck are you doing with all these like chips? And then you just feel, I was feeling so rock bottom because I was drowned in like shame. I was drowned in embarrassment. Like, you're a fitness coach. Why are you eating all this like junk food? You were just telling your clients, not to eat these things yesterday. And I was even feeling very ashamed because my clients were able to eat more clean than me. And yet I was, like losing control over like this few bags of chips. I hit rock bottom in December 2017. So I picked up the phone and called one of my dear friends who is also a great life coach, right? So I worked with her and I told her my problem, right? So this is my next step. I start to work with her, and I highly urge everyone, or some of you that go through, that have these, unhealthy eating behaviors, that, it is time. If you feel like it's really bothering you, if it's been affecting your life a lot, especially mentally and physically, then it's time for you to seek help. It is time for you to work with the community, to be part of a community, to, work with a mentor that can really help you get out of this. Right. And, some of you guys already know that I do body confidence coaching. So I'm more than happy to have you guys to join our body confidence club to, work through your relationship with food, to work through the disordered eating behaviors that we mentioned, the unhealthy relationship you have around food, and whatever that you are still hiding. You think it might not be a big deal, but it's actually affecting you in many subtle ways. Those are the things that we deal with inside the club, right? And I am here, right, because I've gone through this myself, and I feel how important it is for many of you women out there to really deal with these, food issues, because we really have to go through them before we realize, hey, we can be so much more. We can be so much more confident. We can do so much more with our body and with ourselves if we can actually go through this, if we can actually conquer, and get over this obstacle with food first. Right. So I know a lot of people don't think it's a big deal. They just need to lose the weight and feel good about their body, but it's not that simple. Right. And that is why I am passionate. I'm always here saying that, what, we got to get together inside the club, inside the Body Confidence Club, as a community, as a big sisterhood, to work with each other. You'll be amazed how fast you can get the result, how fast you can feel amazing in your body and in your mind, feel that confidence in just a short amount of time when you're working with a coach, when you're working with the community, right? So the next step is very important. Just by acknowledging and, being aware is a great first step. But, the important part is, what are you going to do about them? Right? Are you going to seek help? Are you going to, work with a mentor? Are you going to join a community, right? Community of like-minded people who can really hold each other accountable and go, you know what, sister, nothing to feel ashamed about it. I feel the same. I've been there. I know how it feels. Just like why I'm making this video. I know how it feels. I know how painful it is, right? So if you're watching this video and you know what I'm talking about, you are not alone, okay? Me, I'm not perfect. I went through so many like, unhealthy eating behaviors that you saw before, right? So many unhealthy eating behaviors, more actually. I actually ran out of space to write more. There's so much more, like calorie restrictions. What else? Yeah, checking labels all the time and just feeling very out of control around food, right? It took me a while to work through them. And I'm very proud to say that I don't feel this way anymore. But it did take me some time to work through them. And I'm very grateful that I, start to work with that friend that I, talk to. And if you feel like you have get to a point where you're like, enough is enough, I can't do this anymore, I can't let these feelings and also my current beliefs and behaviors dictate how I am around food and how I am in life, then it's time to make a change. And I am here for you. Okay, my Body Confidence Club is waiting for you. You can find out more about how my body confidence coaching works in the description below. Just click on, work with me, women's body confidence coaching, right? And, if you do want to know more about it, just reach out to me on my Instagram and DM me, Authentic Energy, or send an email to us, nutrition@authenticenergy.co, right? I'm here for you. And if you do have questions, chat box, comment here, right? So I hope you guys like today's video, and I'm very glad. I love you guys. Stay here till the end. I know I've talked a lot. I've spent half an hour talking about this. It is a big, big, big topic, right? Like, I just feel like I don't care about the algorithm. I don't care how many people tune in. This may be one of the least popular topics, but it's very important because I suffered. I went through that torture myself. And I said to myself, enough is enough. I don't want to go through this anymore, and I don't want many of you girls go through that. And I want you to stop feeling shameful. I want you to stop feeling guilty, stop feeling, what's the word, embarrassed, or all the other emotions. I want you to stop feeling amazing. Okay, and it starts from you today. All right, thank you so much for watching, everyone. It's time for me to go and reflect and have a think about it. You may have some questions after this video. Just write to me in the comment or DM me on my Instagram, Authentic Energy. You can find me there. All right. Thank you so much, guys. And I'll see you next Wednesday, 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Bye.